No one saw it coming that night. The ballroom shimmered like a dream, crystal chandeliers dripping light, champagne glasses sparkling like tiny stars, marble floors reflecting every gleam. Victoria Beckham stepped onto the stage as always, poised, untouchable, a figure of absolute control. People said she could face a hurricane and never let a tremor show in her voice. But tonight was different. Tonight, the air itself seemed to hold its breath. She was only there to present an award to a rising designer. A simple, elegant gesture, nothing more. Then, midway through her speech, she froze. Her fingers rested lightly on the podium. She leaned forward, eyes locking on a single journalist in the front row. Her voice didn't rise, didn't crack, it hardened like steel. 12 words fell, sharp and unyielding, slicing through the glittering room. I kept quiet too long. People need to know what she did. No names were spoken. They didn't have to be. Every reporter, every stylist, every guest holding their breath understood immediately. Meghan Markle, before the lights even dimmed, an 11-second recording had exploded online. By morning, millions had listened. Shock was an understatement. The world realized something monumental had finally broken Victoria's decades of silence. What could have forced the most composed, controlled woman in British fashion to speak so sharply, so finally, but she didn't stop there. Soon, the two were photographed at Wimbledon, laughing, leaning close like longtime confidants. Victoria sent her fashions directly to Kensington Palace, letting Meghan select pieces for fittings, privileges not granted lightly. Inside the fashion world, whispers spread, Victoria didn't have to do any of this. She chose to. For a time, their friendship seemed golden, warm, elegant, and full of mutual respect. Outside observers couldn't have predicted the storm lurking beneath the surface. As Meghan's profile soared, every wardrobe choice became a headline, and Victoria's designs silently shaped the new royal image. Meghan praised them in interviews. Victoria's team celebrated quietly. A duchess wearing your creations could elevate a brand forever. At Wimbledon, photos captured whispered conversations, heads tilted close, smiles easy. Two women, each accustomed to scrutiny, seemed united, powerful. But behind the flashes, something imperceptible had begun, a subtle fracture. A soft whisper became a growing doubt, a shadow creeping into the bond. And that quiet crack would one day erupt, bringing the story back to that gala and Victoria's unforgettable words. The fracture didn't happen in a day. Like most storms, it started as a whisper no one wanted to hear. By late 2019, sources say Meghan sensed something insecure in her inner circle. Personal details, small, intimate things only a handful knew, kept appearing in the press. Nothing dramatic, nothing obvious, but it felt personal. Someone was speaking. Names weren't attached, but one name kept surfacing in whispers, hushed conversations, private teas. Could it be Victoria Beckham? It sounded absurd. Victoria had spent decades fortifying her privacy, guarding her world like a fortress. Why would she risk that reputation? Suspicion, however, needs no proof, just a spark. And once it ignited, Meghan's behavior shifted. Sources say she didn't confront Victoria. She didn't demand answers. She simply withdrew. Texts that once pinged back immediately grew silent. Invitations slowed, then disappeared. And without argument, without drama, a once solid friendship crumbled into quiet emptiness. Victoria sensed the distance before she understood its cause. Those close to her described it as sudden, baffling, painfully cold, like being locked out of a room whose door had silently closed. And as the months dragged on, the silence between them thickened, an invisible wall forming where warmth once lived. The silence between them thickened, growing heavier with every passing day, until it became undeniable, something had shattered. Even without a single word, the fracture was complete. By the time Meghan and Harry stepped back from royal life, the gulf between them and the Beckhams was absolute. No joint appearances. No casual photographs. Not even the superficial messages that public figures exchanged to maintain decorum. The Beckhams had vanished from the Sussex orbit, not gradually, but entirely. One insider described it as flipping a switch, one day inseparable, the next, strangers. Victoria, who had once opened doors, offered guidance, shared private contacts, and invested in a friendship she believed genuine, suddenly found herself on the outside, excluded without explanation. And yet she stayed silent. No complaints. No demands for answers. She did what she always did, kept her head down, poured herself into her empire, her family, her work. But the silence didn't fade. It grew, year by year, a shadow neither acknowledged, looming between them. Most assumed it would remain that way forever, unresolved, unspoken, invisible. Then came the breaking point. Not a whisper, not a rumor, but a decision, a charity event, and a betrayal Victoria could no longer ignore. According to sources, she had spent months preparing a children's hospital fundraiser, her vision, her effort, her money, her heart invested. The event promised millions for a cause she loved, and the organizers were elated when Meghan agreed to co-host. A duchess beside Victoria would guarantee attention, credibility, donations. It seemed perfect until it wasn't. Weeks before the fundraiser, everything changed. Insiders say Meghan instructed organizers that Victoria's name did not fit the royal vision. Shortly after, an email, allegedly from Meghan's aide, surfaced, per Duchess's request, please consider alternative fashion sponsorship. Concerns raised about brand alignment and press narratives. No tags, no accusations. The world understood, not just a football legend sharing a snapshot, but a husband standing by his wife, quietly, powerfully. Within hours, support flowed. A supermodel friend added heart emojis. A designer reposted with the caption, "Some people mistake kindness for weakness." Meanwhile, Meghan's circle, the usual defenders, went silent. Oprah. Serena Williams. Even Prince Harry. Silence. Paparazzi caught him at the airport, head down, lips pressed tight. And in that stillness, perception shifted. Victoria seemed stronger. Meghan, isolated. This was no longer a feud, it was a subtle rebalancing of power. Then, late one night, when the world was asleep, a new shock erupted online, a 14-second audio clip. Barely enough time for a commercial break, yet enough to ignite chaos. A calm, sharp female voice said, "She's lucky I don't say what I know about her." The whisper hit the air, and Meghan's team reportedly panicked. Emergency calls, urgent meetings, legal discussions, all before Victoria even confirmed she would speak. The tension wasn't from an interview, it was from anticipation. A woman who built a brand on composure and silence was ready to speak. That alone shifted the narrative. Each hour Meghan remained silent, the power tilt sharpened. Victoria appeared resolute. Meghan, cornered, and the story comes full circle, a woman in a quiet room, choosing every word. Victoria Beckham had survived decades of fame, scandals, rumors, and pressure. Calm, collected, silent when others erupted. She believed silence protected and preserved. But silence became its own prison. When asked why she spoke at the gala, Victoria didn't raise her voice, attack, or retaliate. She said simply, "I stayed quiet because I thought it would protect everyone." But all it did was protect the wrong person. Those words echoed across headlines, social circles, and the narrative built over years. They weren't angry, they weren't dramatic, they were final. They marked Victoria stepping out of the shadows and into the light of truth. A truth long guarded, finally exposed. And the world waits. Because when a woman like Victoria speaks once, she may speak again. And if what she hinted at is only half the story, this isn't the end, it's the beginning of a truth that has been quietly waiting for someone to finally stop protecting the wrong person. Ch.